we often feel abandoned by God? Because we don't know that He's just in the next room. He's right there. He can pick us up at any moment if we just call to Him in the right way. God is there. God is in your life. And in your relationship with other people, I've always found this, that when I didn't have love from others, it was not because they didn't give it to me, because I didn't give it to them. My duty is not to go around looking for somebody to love me. My duty is to love them. Think in terms of what will help them, not how can I get even with them if they hurt you. What will do the most good? Concentrate on becoming a cause, not an effect. And this is what relationships can teach us to do, perhaps better than anything else, better than meditation. Your relationships are a very, very important part of your meditation, a very, very important part of your spiritual growth. And the more you can come at them in that way, try to be an instrument of blessing to others. Try to see when you get upset by anybody, what is it in yourself that makes you upset? Your problem is, how do you change yourself to reach the point where you can take whatever comes? You'll find something very interesting, that when you start putting out the right energy, you begin getting the right kinds of friends. You'll find that instead of getting people who do pull you down, you'll begin to get wonderful friends. To be a true friend means to find true friends everywhere, to be able to attract true friends from past incarnations, to be able to find those friends above all who will help you to grow spiritually. And that's what it's really finally all about when we're talking of spiritual teachings, to find those relationships and to build on those relationships that can help us to grow spiritually.
Good morning again. How to overcome grief, sorrow, and loss is the topic for today. I'd like to start with a brief reading from In Divine Friendship by Swamiji. This is his response to someone who was going through a lot of suffering. Dear one, I urge you to give up all your pains to God. Don't cling to them, for in that way, they only increase, and you won't resolve anything. What happens between you and others is unimportant compared to your eternal relationship with God. Let every human pain deepen you in that most important reality, your love for God. The less you think about yourself and your personal needs, and give yourself wholly to God, the more you will find Him fulfilling your every desire, and in the most beautiful way imaginable. Remember, He wants only the best for you. Trust in Him. Suffering comes from self-love and self-affirmation. Joy comes from self-forgetfulness and in the contemplation of high spiritual realities. Try to live more in God. You have my prayers and blessings, love, Swami. Today, this is such an important topic for everyone because we've all gone through times of pain, times of sorrow, times when someone has passed away, times when someone has betrayed us, times when something has happened that has disturbed our peace, that we wish wouldn't have happened. We have to realize that everything comes for our own spiritual growth. Every pain, every sorrow, every part of suffering, it brings us, as Swamiji said, into the point of no suffering. What suffers, you have to ask. And ultimately, what suffers is the little self. I was so inspired yesterday. I think many of you saw the honor astral ascension ceremony in honor of our dear friend Anandi, Nayaswami Anandi. And Nayaswami Bharat spoke so beautifully. I mean, when you could see, he spoke of her life and how all she wanted was God. He spoke of her time at Expanding Light and her seva and her all that she did for so many people around the world. And he spoke with such strength and centeredness. You could see that was the fruits of a life given to God, a life of not thinking of oneself, but of thinking of others. And I remember even in Master's life that he went through difficult times. His mother passed away, and Master, he was inconsolable. His mother passed away when he was young, when he was, I think, around 12 years old. And his guru passed away later when Master was a man and he come back from America in 1935. And he also lost his brother, and he lost people who were close to him. And when his guru died as well, Master was inconsolable. But then he saw them again. Divine Mother brought his mother back to him in a vision. And Divine Mother came to Master herself in a vision and said, "It was I who was behind your earthly mother." Swami Sri Teswarji came back to Master, and he appeared in a fleshly form. And you remember how Master had his arms around him, and he had like an octopus gripping his guru instead of dropping into his feet and touching his feet. And Swami Sri Teswarji said, "What, can you just loosen your grip a little bit?" And he said, "No, I won't." But it's so sweet because Divine Mother came back. And we have to realize that when dear ones leave us in one way or another, if it's loss through death or loss through some other way, she comes and she appears and she says, "It was me all along." I recall when Swamiji before he began Ananda, he went through a major test in his life where he said he didn't even know, I mean, he was alone at that time. He didn't even know if Master loved him. And he would sometimes just he didn't know which direction to take. He would lie on his bed, look up at the ceiling and just wonder what to do with his life. But then God came. And he came to Swamiji to start Ananda. Where would we all be had Swamiji not started Ananda? And I remember a particular time in my life too, where I just felt there was no hope, there was no way out. And then Divine Mother came and she gave me what I needed at that time. And so we have to realize we're working out karma. It's not, as Gyanamata said, a smooth life isn't a victorious one. That we have karma to work out. We have karma in relationships. We have karma with the people who we're with, people who we lost, people in our job. We have karma in our family, in our health, in everything that we do. This karma we're working out. No one can do it for you. Master can help, but we have to put out the energy ourselves. As he said, my blessing's there, God's blessing is there, it's your blessing that needs to be there. So how do we look at coming out of suffering or loss or pain? Well, there are three things to think about. One is you have to want to come out. And we all know when something happens, you tend to just go into a shell. You don't want to see anyone. You don't want to do anything. You're maybe be depressed or feeling alone or lonely or hopeless. But it takes time to really come out of something completely. The karma has to be finished, but some people stay there so long that they're just, oh, this happened and I don't know what to do. And like the story of, I can't help but tell that story of the woman who told Master over and over some terrible thing, this surgery that happened to her. And finally, every time she came for counseling, that's what she would talk about. But finally, Master said, well, when did this happen? And she said, 20 years ago. And think of it, some people, something happened so long back, and they still just hang on to it and cling to it. And we have to, first of all, want to get out of it. And that's the first thing. First step is I want to be free from this. I want to, if you have lost someone, I want to send them blessings instead of thinking of myself and how much I want them to be here, or I miss them. I want them to be free. I want to come out of negativity or hopelessness or fear or worry. I want to break that. Until that comes, you just keep sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself, really into the ego. The second thing that has to happen is once you say, I want to come out, then you have to use the practices that Master gave. I remember when someone very close to me many decades ago passed away, and I just couldn't believe that person had died. It was so difficult. And my mother, she saw what I was going through for weeks on end, and I was new at Ananda then. And she said, Dhyana, all that you've learned at Ananda from Swamiji, now you have to put that into practice. That was the best advice. And so I began to chant, and chanting brought it out for me. But for you, also prayer, giving the situation, the person, the pain, giving it to Divine Mother, giving it to Master, being with people, satsang and gurubais, instead of hiding, oh, I don't want to see anyone, I don't want to tell anyone what's happening. So secondly, you have to use the practices. I remember another time when, two times. Once when my grandmother passed away, and I was very close to my grandmother. She was the spiritual hub of our family, my mother's mother. And I was serving in Italy when she passed away, and I just didn't know what to do. I was just so sad. But then I did the astral ascension ceremony, and I felt this is one of our practices. You can have someone do that for you if someone has passed away, or you can read from Whispers from Eternity, the words of Master that are in some of them in the astral ascension ceremony. I just felt my grandmother just lift up in the light from just that ceremony. And I remember another time when I was going through a difficult time. And, I say this because people think, well, I remember someone said to me, well, you don't have any problems or anything because you just sit home all day and chant Om. And I just thought, gee, you don't know the life. I mean, all you have to do is read the lives of different ones who sought God. They went through quite a lot. And I remember Swamiji said to me one time when I just said, I just can't take the pain of this loss. And he said, Dhyana, look what it takes to find God. And I just thought, how could he say that? I'm in so much pain. He didn't give me one word of consolation. He just said, look what it takes to find God. And then he coupled that with, look what I've had to go through. And I just thought I can never reach those heights, but he assured me that I could. And so when we think about that, we have to realize that we have to put out the energy to make things happen. Finally, we have to remember God's grace, and we have to trust. You have to have faith. Now that's hard for people. They feel they're mad at God. God didn't come when I needed him. He didn't hear my prayer. My relative passed away. I've been sick for a month, or whatever. But you have to realize behind everything is Divine Mother's hand. Surely there's the law of karma. Things have to happen. It can't be smooth and happy all the time. And I remember a time when I just had done everything I could, and meditating more, doing affirmations, serving, giving classes, going to satsangs and reading the books. And I said to Swamiji, I'm doing everything I can, but I can't break out of this pain. And then he just said, don't worry about it. You've done everything you can do. And that very night when I went to bed, I got up the next day and the pain was gone. I'll never forget it. Nothing like that ever happened to me before. What happened? Swamiji prayed for me. Master helped me. Divine Mother came. All of the above happened. I remember once I said to Swamiji that I thanked him for helping me through his prayers. And he said, Dhyana, Master is helping you. You have to know that. We have to realize Master is helping us. And I'll never forget the beautiful story of Saint Anthony, who was a great saint. I think you should read the lives of the great ones. They all went through so many trials and tribulations. I was remembering before that Sri Ramakrishna, who he had throat cancer, and at the very end, his disciples, or one in particular, kept going over to him at his rest place, his bed. And he said, Master, how are you? And Sri Ramakrishna said, oh, the pain is so terrible. And the disciple went back and he told the others. And then he came back again, but Master, how are you now? And oh, the pain is just so unbearable. And then the disciple went back, and then he came back again. He said, Master, it could have been many hours or days. I don't remember. He said, Master, well, how are you now? And Sri Ramakrishna, he just said, oh, it's just awful. And the disciple went back and he said, he sang this, but it doesn't seem like that's how he really feels. And Sri Ramakrishna said, that fellow has found me out now. Because he had transcended the pain. He had gone above the pain. And so with Saint Anthony, he said he was living in the desert in a tomb. Master said he lived to be 125 years old, 60 years in a cave, calling on God and meditating. And at a certain point, Satan just told him to renounce what he was doing. And Saint Anthony said, I will not give up God. I don't care what happens. I will not give up my faith. I will believe that God is with me. And Satan said, well, if you're going to do that, I'll break the tomb then. I'm going to get you out of there. And Saint Anthony just stood there, and everything started to break away from him. The tomb and everything that he had was being taken away. And then in that moment, Christ appeared to him. He had been praying to Christ. Christ appeared to him, and Saint Anthony said, Lord, why didn't you come before? I was here praying all this time. And then Christ said to him, Anthony, I was here all the time. You just have to know, but people don't reach out. They go down instead of up. They do other things instead of call on God and rely on God. So just remember, Divine Mother sang, I was there all the time, and I'm there all the time with you. God bless you. Now I'll ask Nitindra to come up on the screen and ask the few questions that we have for today.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. I'll just share the list of questions. The first question, Dhyanaji, is there is so much pain in human relationships sometimes. How can I love when I'm in pain?
Yeah. it's hard to do that. I would see it as directional. We're not perfect. We try our best. Someone betrays you, you have to already be a saint to be able to just forgive them immediately. I remember times when I just couldn't do that. I tried, but I just couldn't. But after some time I could. So don't be fake. Okay, I'm fine now, everything's fine. It's not fine. Typically you're hurt. But I tell you, when you can forgive a person, what freedom there is. But it takes time, typically. So aim for that. So I'm heading in that direction. And I remember one time someone had done something really awful, and I had to give a talk at Ananda Village. Some of you may remember this time, and the person was in the audience. It was a big lecture, and I was so happy to be sharing, giving the talk, that I wasn't even thinking about that person. And then afterwards, I went to one of my friends and I said, oh, that person is there in the audience. I should go and greet them. And they said, do you know what they did to you? Don't go, don't go and greet them. And I just felt that wasn't the right response. I mean, I was feeling up and I was feeling like I was ready to let it go. So then I went to Devi Ji and I told her, I said, it feels like I should go and say something and, apologize or get the apology or whatever. I love what she said, I'll go with you. Isn't that totally different? So also you have to watch who you're with. Other people curse them, kill them, do it, whatever. And the right person will say, I'll go with you. And I went there, and I tell you, if I ever could have levitated, I would have been, because I felt so freed up. And then I went to Swamiji. I said, this happened, no, Swamiji, it happened. And he said, it should have happened, but I'm so proud of you. Do you see a difference? And so just be real. You don't have to affirm. It's not going to work. That has to come out of you. I remember one time Swamiji gave me this heart-shaped bowl for one of my birthdays. And it was after a difficult time in my life. And he didn't say a word. There was no card. There was no box, no wrapping. He just gave me that heart-shaped bowl. And I knew what it meant, and he knew what it meant. Nobody else in the room knew what it meant, but it meant my heart was healed. But it takes time. I didn't try to rush it. Sometimes you're just mad. I mean, let's face it. So just keep your practices going, keep meditating, keep offering to God, it's like a nail on the board. You keep pulling. Finally, God, it's out and it's finished. And you don't go back 20 years later saying, yeah, it was 20 years ago, it happened, I'm still upset. So I hope that's helpful.
Absolutely, Dhyanaji, thank you. The next question is, I lost a loved one recently and have lost some of my faith in God because of this. How can I regain this faith again?
It's hard, isn't it? But Master, I don't think he lost faith in God, but he was still inconsolable about his mother and his Guruji. So I think, what are you going to do? You just have to keep offering to God, just keep praying. Master said, if you really miss someone, that you can call to them in the ether. And it's in the book, Karma and Reincarnation, that you gaze at the spiritual eye and just keep calling to them. And if your heart is pure, and if Divine Mother wills, that person will touch you in some way. And so either come to you in a dream or a vision or touch your heart, or something will happen where God has brought that person to you. So I would say the only way to go is go to Divine Mother and say, I'm in pain from this. You have to take the pain away. and let her come to you. Don't try to figure it out yourself.
Thank you, Dhyanaji. We have two more questions.
Hmm.
The first is, after being betrayed, I feel that I cannot trust or love anyone completely again.
Oh,
I'm afraid of being hurt. So what should I do to not feel that?
well, you have to decide at a certain point that I love because I want to love, I'm not going to hold my love back because one person hurt me. So I'm not going to love my children. I won't love these. I won't, because I'm mad, So you have to get out of that yourself at a certain point and say, I love, God's love flows through me. And that's what I'm really giving. Sometimes you give people things and, they betray you and they turn against you and all of that. And it's hard. I've been through that. It's very difficult. But, love is the answer. As you begin to love again, you feel happy. If you don't love, you don't feel happy. So if you want to have a scowl on your face the rest of your life and never have any friends and never have any deep relationships, you can go on like that. But at a certain point, Master was betrayed. He was betrayed by one of his good friends when he was a boy. And his guru knew he would be betrayed by him and told him he would be betrayed. But somehow the karma had to take place. So sometimes a betrayal is because we betrayed someone in another life. You understand what I'm saying? It's not just them, it's you. So if you can finish the karma, what I like to do is just get my part done. If I can't change the other person, but I don't want to come back again and again and again with the same situation, the same betrayal. I betrayed him, now he's going to betray me. Then I'll betray him, they'll betray me again. How many lifetimes is that going to go? At a certain point, you just say, I'm done. I forgive them. It's over. You can do healing prayers, and I'll show you in a moment a prayer that you can do. The prayer, I can't remember the name, but anyway, we'll show it in a moment. But anyway, you want to finish the karma. You don't want to keep enmeshed with different people. And the longer you're mad at them, you're upset, you hate them, you curse them, you whatever, you're just going to come back to them. Who wants to come back in the family with those people? Master said a lot of times people come back in the same family and they're fighting all the time because they were fighting in the last life. So in this life, just say, I'm done. My part is done. If they want to keep fighting, fine, but they're not going to fight with me. So peace and harmony prayer is what it's called. And you have one more question there?
Yes, Dhyanaji, one last question. It is, I still cannot forget or forgive a painful situation in my life. So how can I come out of it?
Meditate, pray, serve, patience. I think honestly, I have to tell, the straight story is grace. You can do as much as you can do, but you just can't get out by yourself. You just can't. I remember, I'll tell this last short story. My dear friend, Leela, who passed away years ago, but she served here in India with Swamiji, a saint. These people are saints, Anandi, Leela, saints. So then her husband passed away suddenly. He was jogging on the road and they were serving in Italy, and he had a heart attack and died. And boy, that was really hard for everybody. Swamiji did the astral ascension ceremony. He was just weeping the whole time. So I'm so sorry for Leela. I'm just so sorry. It's not, you can't say just, okay, I'm like this. I don't have any emotions. I don't have any feelings rather. And so, but what was so beautiful, this is why Leela was a saint. And Swamiji said, I think she was free. She said, went to Swamiji afterwards and she said, Swamiji, I don't know what to do now. All I've ever done is serve you. Can I please come back and serve you tomorrow? Do you understand what that means? She put herself aside and went to serve Swamiji. And he said yes. So she came, and then one day she was in the kitchen and she was still sad, of course. She was crying, and Swamiji came in and he said, "Oh my gosh, what's happened?" And so she said, "Oh, Swamiji, don't worry, don't worry." And so Swamiji said, "Just wait a moment." And then he went in the other room. He went in the meditation room, and he came back out after, she said, about half an hour. And she said, "Dhyana, I was perfectly fine." He never said anything. It wasn't like Swamiji would come, "I'm healing you now, I'm taking this pain." He just never said anything. She said, after he came out of that room, "I was perfectly fine. I was fine after that." So we have to know, try everything you can. You can't sit back, heal me, heal me. But as you do it, you can. Divine Mother comes in and she just takes the pain away. So I guess receptivity is very important as well. So can you show on the screen, and then people can take a screenshot or a snap of the peace and harmony prayer. This is for if you have difficulties with people in your life. It's a wonderful prayer and it's very effective. Master wrote this prayer. So I'll leave you all with this, and many blessings to everyone. Have a wonderful day. God bless you.